Hi, Coach. Yeah, after the Texas A&M game, what are you looking for in this one to kind of keep the momentum going? And I believe you used the word swagger also on after the
Uh,
game.
yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's about preparation, understanding South Carolina's record, and last game was good. Whether anything carries over or not, I mean, we'll find out. At game time.
Mm.
But certainly a step in the right direction on many fronts, and we got to get ready for South Carolina. They have a really good backcourt. Michi Johnson's playing as good as anybody, and obviously Cooper, a transfer from the University of Minnesota, and Miles Stewart at the three spot, BJ Mack. So there's a lot of things we got to get ready for between now and Saturday.
You'd mentioned with Battle that was, just a coach's decision. Obviously, he has the ability to help you guys a lot. What do you need to see from him to kind of get him back into the swing of things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's about any one player. I mean, we're not going to, we can't keep playing 11, 12 guys. When we do that, the game's not in our favor. And
Mm.
we've historically been a program that's played 7 or 8 guys. We're trying to pare the rotation down. Who has a good game on Saturday or who has a subpar game? I'm not really sure. In this last game, I mean, Layden Blocker had played well at Florida, and so had Joseph Pinion. There's only so many minutes to go around, and certainly we have a staff that evaluates practice, and pieces got to fit together, and both sides of the basketball are important, and offense is as important as defense. If not, defense may be a little bit more important here at Arkansas. So it's just a whole bunch of factors with all of our guys. Again, to answer your question, I'm talking in general, 1 through
Mm.
14. Keon had some big games early. His minutes have fluctuated as well. But certainly, I think going forward, the rotation will probably not expand. I think it's expanded way too much. Um, you know, and I'm been doing it long enough that the question's going to come. You know, whoever doesn't play on a certain night.
Thanks, Coach.
Touch.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned South Carolina's record. I mean, they've already won more games than they did last year. I'm just curious where, based on what you saw from them last year when you prepared for them and then now, just where have they made the most improvements?
Well, they're connected. I mean, you watch them play. They're connected. They play more together. Um, Looks like there's an agenda with them this year, and that agenda is to win. Um, Not so sure you felt that way, Lat. You know what I mean? There was kind of happens, and I think their coaching staff's done not a good job, but a phenomenal job. The culture looks very, very strong this year. Super impressed with, maybe what might not, be what national people think are big transfer additions have been phenomenal for them. 55 Cooper is, I mean, he can make threes. He's got good size. He never turns the ball over. BJ Max, can pick and pop and rebounds the ball. And Miles Stewart is known as a shooter, and he's making shots. And so, super impressed with their guys. And then Michi Johnson's a returning player who's quite frankly playing as well as any guard in our league. And I thought that, going into the year, he wasn't talked enough about. Well, everybody's talking about him now. He's being extremely productive on the floor, not in preseason, whatever. He's producing. Bob?
Hey, Eric, I wanted to ask you a couple more things about Al Ellis. how have you thought his season's gone? I know it's kind of been up and down, and he seems like he's kept a positive attitude, even though, like he said the other night, he'd never gone through not playing much. That's just not something that happened to him, and he seemed like he handled that pretty well. Just what do you thought about his season overall, his attitude, how he's handled everything?
Yeah, I mean, he obviously a veteran who played a lot of minutes last year. Um, I thought he played really well in certain aspects of the game the other night. The point guard position is a position where that we've gone back and forth and need consistent play out of for sure. I mean, Keon's played well. L's had some good games. Layden's had some good games. And that's unfortunately for fans and unfortunately for media members, we also practice 6 days a week, and so you got the games, you got all summer. So there's a whole body of work that goes into decision making. But I think L's handled it. He was ready to play. And I think he's there's been times it's been a struggle for him as well. I mean, I wouldn't say that that every day he's handled it. I mean, I think he wants to play, and just as all of our guys do, just as everybody on every team wants to play. And he got his opportunity the other night, and I thought he did a fabulous job of playing with energy, playing with the motor, pushing the ball, all those things that we talk about. And then defensively, we didn't really assign him to their two guards. He guarded a small forward a lot in that game, and I thought he did a good job defending the small forward as well.
And you talked the other night about the team kind of getting their swagger back, and you'd had signs up to remind them in the locker room. You seem like a coach that has a lot of swagger. Did you have to regain some of your swagger after a tough start, or kind of how was that for you and the coaching staff?
That's a really good question, Bob. And I think that
You kind of lost you.
Yeah, I think you basically said, well, you said that's a good question. I got to repeat that. And then you said you had some conversations after the Florida game, and I think that's where you cut out. So maybe you could go back to that.
maybe that was on purpose. No, I mean, I had great conversations with Phil Nevin on the phone. I know that the Angels went through injuries, and I was super impressed every time I went to visit him with his upbeat, positive attitude and vibe that he created in the clubhouse. And talked to Tom Crean, who's a friend, to get his perspective because he watches so many games, and talked to Brendan Surr. We worked together with the Orlando Magic. Even on my drive into to the arena, I was still talking to different people. Johnny Jones and I have communicated back and forth, and people that I've worked with in the past, just to get perspective, insight. So, I think all that stuff helps. I don't think that, from a confidence standpoint, I don't think that the coaches or the players should ever lose confidence, but certainly when you get a win after losing 3 games, I think that helps the overall vibe. And now you got to push, you got to push your last win aside, and you got to get ready for South Carolina. I think that's the important thing. But back to your question, Bob, I don't think you can have the turnarounds that we've had in the past without having belief and confidence, and then you stick to your principles and you stick to tweaking things, which is what we did. I mean, we went into the game and changed our starting lineup again, and it was probably the best start that we've had in a long time to a game. So,
Yeah, I got a couple more kind of a fun one. So I'll turn back to Mike for the other guys.
Let's go with the fun one. We haven't had a fun one in a long time.
Well, okay, it's your Zoom. I saw that there's going to be bobblehead giveaway, and just wondering what you thought about that. I mean, that's kind of a sign of
no comment.
No comment on the bobblehead?
No comment on the bobblehead, Bob.
Okay, I was wondering if you thought it was a good likeness, or I thought they should do one without your shirt on. You could be, celebrating or something. That would have been cool, but maybe bobblehead people aren't that creative. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, bobbleheads, I thought they went out. Now they're back in. Probably should have done a bobblehead with Danielle and I together. That would have been a lot better than just me standing there. Not sure about the hair. Not sure about the facial expressions on that bobblehead. I guess there's some similarities, but also some not similarities.
Okay, I'm sure they did the best they could. Thanks.
Kevin. Kevin, are you there? Curtis.
I see you guys are at the top of the country in blocks, but you don't have anybody in the top six or so of the SEC. I guess, what do you make of maybe the team approach to the rim protection this year?
Yeah, Curtis, when the new rules came out and when we had our referee seminar, we had a decision to make in the summer. And our decision was to get away from trying to take charges. The decision was, to go vertical and to try to become a little bit better shot blocking team. And that means not just, 1 through 5. They're not just 4 and 5s, but also Keon had, he's had a couple blocks in games, and obviously Davenport's had some games with some chase behind blocks. And we all know that TB, that Trevin Brazil's a guy that's got great length, athleticism, and timing from a shot blocking standpoint. And we knew that Chandler, Lawson, when you look at his length, that he would have the ability to alter shots. And Kai Mitchell's done a really good job of being a shot blocker in his time here as well. So, but that was, when the rules changed, and you knew that the charge was going to kind of go away, that changes how you play weak side defense. And there's just not many charges called at all anymore, for obvious reasons, freedom of movement, wanting more scoring, all those type things. And so as a team, as a program, as a coaching staff, you've got to kind of alter your approach as well. It'll be interesting how this unfolds, as we continue to get into SEC play, but at this juncture, we do lead the nation in that category. And you always want to try to create some type of identity with some stat that you can kind of hang your hat on. And that's been the stat thus far from a defensive standpoint. And, in year 1, it was leading the nation in defending the 3. And, and then we got to get better, Curtis, in a lot of the areas that, you so kindly didn't mention, that we were ranked in the opposite spots of those blocks. So I appreciate you bringing up a positive stat.
Keeping up the good vibes after a win, Mus.
There you go. Good vibes, positivity, swagger. Thank you, Curtis.
Jackson Collier.
Hey, Mus, you mentioned Meechie Johnson a couple times already this presser. You just faced a really good guard in Wade Taylor, who can score at all 3 levels, similar to Meechie Johnson. What can you take away from that performance from Wade Taylor in preparing for Meechie Johnson, if anything?
Well, Taylor had an incredible game. He made some incredible shots. But that was a lot of field goals attempted as well. We did not go double him. In the past, we've doubled team star players when they come across half court to get the ball out of their hands. We did not do that the other night. We felt that Taylor and Radford were equally important, and whether it was a little bit of our scheme or just an individual night for those 2 guys. I mean, you look at the stats and you would say that, probably did as good a job as you could against Radford. I don't know if he's ever had a game statistically like that. And then you look at the number of points and the big baskets that Taylor hit, and those were phenomenal numbers and phenomenal big time shot making. And Meechie Johnson is, a guy that has deep range, can really dribble drive the ball. He scores it at 3 levels. They'll run pick and rolls with him. And so our job will be to try to figure out what we're best suited to. And we haven't hit the practice floor since our last game. We start here in 22 minutes and 34 seconds where we'll get back on the practice floor. And that's when really, Jackson, our game prep will begin once we get down there and watch video as a team, and I'll lay out our plan A, plan B, and plan C. And then I'll get feedback from these guys just like I always do, whether it's individual conversations, individual text messages, or team conversations after we watch individual clips of their top 8 guys, and then once we defend their play. So today will be the first time that we go through with our scout team defending their plays, and we'll look at our plan A, plan B, and C as a collective group. We'll make the best decision to try to beat South Carolina, regardless of what one individual player does or doesn't do. And you got a tough decision to make when you're guarding any leading scorer. You're going to try to make that night really hard for him, or you're going to take away options 2 and 3. So those are all stuff that are still works in progress.
Jackson Fuller.
Yeah, Eric, the great first half offensively, you guys only scored 2 fast break points, so a lot of execution in the half court. I know you said that you had that like the high pick and roll where you're throwing it to the 5 quick. Is that something that can translate past Texas A&M, or what maybe can you take from that first half that can translate to South Carolina and moving forward all year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the middle pick and roll with our short roll with having our centers be playing, that was based on how Texas A&M plays pick and rolls. They'll trap it, they'll hard show it. South Carolina will do that as well. But we have great respect that they'll watch what we did. And so we've got to come up with a counterattack, which we will. We'll be adding a couple new sets, based on how they play pick and roll and who's involved in their pick and roll defense, and try to give our opponents a look on some play patterns that they have not seen before. And then we'll look at those early in the game. That's what we try to do, especially in league play, is run 2 different variations of a play and see how they play it and see if it's successful or not. But yeah, certainly we want all of our guys to be playmakers whenever they're given the ball, especially in sweet spots on the floor, to either look for dump off passes for layups or dunks or free throws attempted or spit out 3 balls. So those are the 3 areas that we need playmakers to continue to share the ball or share the game or let the ball have eyes in those areas.
And Jeremiah, one more. Jeremiah made a couple threes, maybe 2 threes the other night. But how much does he bring to the team, even when even if he's not maybe making threes, just his ability to space the floor? It seems like he's getting some more consistent run with you guys in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting a consistent run because he has had some great spurts. I mean, he went through that segment at Florida. In the first half, 13 points. Didn't get a basket in the second half and was minus 25 in the game. And he went through a spurt, the other night where I think he scored 8 straight. But his plus minus, for whatever reason, was our most concerning plus minus that we had. We talked after the Florida game about JD trying to provide defensive rebounding. That's something that we need help there. You know what I mean? And that's, all the stuff with L, he went 3 for 11, but he played a lot of minutes, and he played a lot of minutes because he had a career high in defensive rebounds. He had 6 defensive rebounds. And I think one of the things with minutes and roles and all this stuff is, we have a phrase, what does the game call for? Against Texas A&M, the game called for defensive rebound. So we need everybody to defensive rebound regardless of how many shots you're making, but JD's playing because he plays with energy and he plays with enthusiasm, and he gives us a little bit of pop and jolt when he's out there. So we certainly want him to continue to shoot the ball with confidence. I think the last 2 games, JD has shot the ball with more confidence than he has all year. And a lot of that correlates. He's been in the gym the last few days, as much as he has all year as well. And we're starting to see a lot more individual shooting going on, which is what you want this time of year. You don't want the 2 games a week to have you fading in your PD or your player development. Super pleasantly surprised with all the shooting that's gone on today. As I walked out to lunch, as I walked back from lunch, a lot of guys getting shooting reps in, which is really important this time of year.
Kevin.
Muss, when you look at Tremont Mark, obviously he's been a consistent scorer for you guys, especially these last 7 games, 20 points. But after that double-double or around that time, he has doubled his rebounding production per game. I mean, doubled it, and he's been better when you look at assists, when you look at blocks, 3-to-1 improvement. When you look at the raw numbers, everybody's kind of gotten used to him as being a reliable scorer, but what are you seeing in the other areas? Because we talk a lot about the hustle play effort and things like that. And it seems like he's kind of leading by example and more than just being a scorer.
Well, for sure, Kevin, I think that, especially when a guy has the ball in their hands, the teammates need to feel that there's a lot contributions going on in other areas. And I think we saw that with Mason Jones, with all the steals that Mason would create defensively. And JD Note was a great on-ball defender. And we've challenged T Mark because he should be blocking more shots with his length, his anticipation. And he's a guy that's going to block shots on the ball, which is what he did a couple different times with Taylor. And we moved him over there from basically the small forward spot to guard Taylor. And I thought he had a great effect on the game from a defensive standpoint. And, we post our rebounds per minute every pre practice. And he probably, knows he's got to rebound the ball better for us to have effectiveness. And certainly he's done that, of late at a much, much higher clip than he did at the beginning of the year.
And then, when you look at Chandler Lawson, kind of that glue guy at times, it's kind of been, but this was his best, obviously, SEC performance. The 4 assists, that was one shy of what A&M had as a team. And most of that, obviously, in that first half and that early run. What do you think about him moving forward? Is there something there that, because that 5 spot's been kind of a 3-headed monster and not, real consistent from one particular player?
Yeah, I think the point guard position and the 5 position, which, are 2 really important positions. We need consistency from both those positions, Kevin. And I think the one guy that has probably been the most consistent, has been Chandler. And we need him to come in and play like he did last game. Because he's so steady. He's such a great teammate. Emotionally, he's very, very even keeled. Not much facial, not much body change from game to game or minute to minute. He gives us a sense of maturity. He gives us a sense of steadiness. And so we certainly need him to continue moving in that direction because he can make threes. I think he can shoot more threes. Even than what we've seen. And he's a threat out there, and he's a really good passer, and he's super, super unselfish.
Thanks,
Bob, final question.
Eric, I didn't really get a good look at it when they called the flagrant 2 on Devo the other night. Doug Shows told the TV guys that he kicked an Aggie in the groin. Hope that was by accident. Just wondering, what you see in looking at the game film? And, Devo, he's obviously been a great player for you, but he's had some tees and some flagrants. Do you talk to him about dialing it back a little bit, or do you not want to take away his aggressiveness, or just kind of what you thought about that aspect of his game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I don't think I'm in a position, or any coach is in a position to really comment on a technical or a flagrant or whatever. I was surprised that that he was ejected. I will say that. He had the ball in his hands. It was live action, right? So it wasn't during a timeout, or it wasn't during a dead ball. And I think a lot of refereeing, a lot of a lot of you got, personnel becomes really important in league play, and Devo does some unorthodox things with his body. Again, I don't want to comment on that particular play, but when Devo does go in for layups, he does leave off both feet differently. Sometimes he goes off his right foot, sometimes he goes off his left foot when he finishes. But I will say that referee crew that we had, I think those guys are all really, really good, and they're really experienced referees. And again, when a player has the ball in their hands and is making a move towards the rim, I don't think anybody can know what was going through Devo's mind other than him. What the referees explained happened. That is what happened. And so, they've got to make a decision based on what they see on video. And I mean, it's out there. I mean, what was described to the TV crew is what happened in live play. Again, I just kind of feel like a player with the ball in his hands. I mean, I my interpretation is usually that player's, trying to score, and sometimes things happen in dead balls. And there's not even a technical called in some games. So, a flagrant 2 and to be ejected is that's, I'm not saying that I disagree with that, but I do think consistency, becomes important on ejections, technicals, so on and so forth. Because, that was not a dead ball situation, or nobody was, did anything other than try to make a basketball move. And then unfortunately, the player, whatever. But yeah, Devo and I have had conversations, and we want him to be who he is. We want him to be aggressive. We want him to play with, but certainly don't want anything that'll jeopardize, when he's not in the game or gets a technical or gets thrown out, it changes our demeanor and who we are. So we certainly want him to, we don't want anybody to get a technical, including me, I guess.